In this week's episode, we'll be making candied cocktail nuts, ingredients you likely have in your pantry and very easy to put together. We'll also be making an herbed cheese straw, which is very versatile in that you can use any hard cheese you have in your fridge and a combination of herbs you might have in your pantry. To start with the candied cocktail nuts, first we'll toast the nut mixture in an oven at 350 degrees just to bring a little bit of the flavor out. Now we'll add some spices and sugar and liquid ingredients to a saucepan. Then we'll add the toasted nuts into the saucepan and stir to combine. Then we'll lay it back out on the parchment-lined sheet pan and put it into the oven at 350 degrees for 10 minutes, being sure to stir halfway through. Stir the ingredients until the butter is melted and everything's incorporated. Now carefully add the toasted nuts into the saucepan and stir to combine. Be careful, they might be a little warm still. Once the nuts are fully covered, lay them out on a parchment-lined baking sheet, and we'll bake at 350 degrees for 10 minutes. The nuts are out of the oven, and I ended up actually adding 5 more minutes onto the bake time just to toast them up a little bit more, but use your best judgment. They can go 10 to 15 minutes. Now we're going to let them cool and they'll continue to crisp just a little bit more. As the candied nuts are cooling, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of sea salt on top, and that'll give it a little salty and sweet flavor. Once the nuts have had a chance to cool, then you can break them apart and put them in a serving dish. It will serve about 4 people, although it could easily just be one person. But I'm encouraging you to share with friends around the table. You can easily double or triple this recipe. Now it's time to make the herbed cheese straws. I always like to keep a package of puff pastry in the freezer. Package of puff pastry, let me see that. And that way I can make this really anytime. I also will use whatever cheese I have on hand and whatever herbs might be in the garden. This is a super versatile recipe. Let's go ahead and get started. Flour your working surface and then lay out 1/2 of the puff pastry. Make sure that there's enough flour so it doesn't stick as you roll it out. Then roll it out into a 10 by 12 inch rectangle. Once you've rolled out your pastry dough, mix 1 egg and 1 tablespoon of water, and then brush on top of the pastry dough. Sprinkle the toppings on top. Remember, only use half of them as we have a whole nother piece of pastry to complete. Gently press the toppings into the dough using the rolling pin. Using a pizza cutter or a sharp knife, cut into 12 even strips. If the dough starts to stick to the cutter, add a little flour. Now that you have all your strips cut out, you'll give them a gentle twist and place them on a parchment-lined sheet pan. bake at 375 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes until they start to turn golden brown and they're nice and puffy. I pulled the cheese straws out of the oven and they're nice and golden brown and puffy. Now we'll let them cool for about another 10 minutes and they'll be ready to serve up. Both of these can be made ahead of time and served at room temperature, so there's no need to be hurrying around the kitchen preparing when your guests are arriving. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen today. If you liked this episode, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you'll see the newest episode as we post each week. Remember, it's about spending treasured time around the table with people that you care about, not making fussy recipes that require a lot of time in the kitchen. I hope you make both of these and enjoy them around the table with those that you love. See you next time.